So I recently made a course for beginners and I thought, oh, this is gonna be so easy, so simple, so straightforward. It was none of those things. I have to laugh or else I'll cry. Ty, I appreciate you doing that. I could not do this without you, but I hate it. I feel like I'm so frustrated to you, like, just say the right thing. So this was by far the hardest course that I've ever created. Even though it was a challenge for me, I walked away from that course recording learning 3 really important things, and I'm gonna share that with you right now. Okay, so number 1, I realized there has to be a balance between the technical and the practical. And when you are learning photography, there are 2 ways to learn. There's a very technical way to learn, and then there's a very practical way to learn where you take some of your knowledge, but you just make it work for you. You remember the things you need to remember, and it doesn't always correlate to being the technical terms or the exposure triangle. I struggled making this course because I needed to teach you both things. I also struggled with this because, as you know from watching this YouTube channel, I am very practical. I am not very technical. I get it. I understand it. But when I'm shooting, I am not thinking about that stuff. I'm thinking about my practical application. Ty, on the other hand, is like, we got to explain the technicality of all of this. How do I say this? I cherish and I think it's great that he has that gift. But it was a struggle. Recording this course because I would explain things from my practical application and he would say, you got to explain it from a technical way. And the truth is we had to have a balance of both. In order to effectively teach beginners, you have to have a balance of technical explanation and practical application. This happened to us when we were filming. So we were filming an example in my home with a model. We had her right next to the window. And I was explaining in the starter course, I was explaining how when she's right next to the window, the light is even. A lot of the properties we're looking for in good light are there, but the background's dark because she is too close to the light source. So I move her to the other side of the room, and as I'm pulling her away from the light source, everything is becoming more even. The background exposure is more comparable to the front of her skin and that exposure. And so I'm teaching that from a visual, practical perspective. And Ty, he's like, that's great. That's a great example. You're using the inverse square law. And I'm like, the what? I wouldn't, even if I knew the full definition of the inverse square law, which I probably should as a photographer. I don't need that though, right? I've created award-winning images and I shoot beautiful weddings and they're featured and people love it. I'm charging 10 grand a wedding and I don't know what the inverse square law means. But let's be honest, let's think about this. Am I successful as a photographer? Yes. Do I create beautiful images? Yes. Are my clients happy? Yes. I think about photography differently and I get the results I need thinking practically. Some people need to think about the rules and the laws of photography from a technical perspective, and that's okay. That's great. If you can be a person who can value and learn both, but lean towards what you resonate with the most, I think that is the perfect sweet spot of learning as a beginner photographer. Okay, number 2, I realized the importance of a solid foundation. When you're learning photography, if your foundational basic skills and understanding of photography are not completely solid, then it changes everything about the trajectory of how you grow and how fast you grow. So I was talking about this with Tyler and we realized it kind of correlates to the concept of compounding interest. So when you invest money in the stock market, you invest a little, and you kind of forget about it. You keep investing a little here, a little there. But what happens is the investment starts to grow upon itself. And there's a point where you're not even really thinking about it, but it's a point where it starts to skyrocket. You get enough money invested and the compound interest kicks in and all of a sudden it's going. It's making money. That's awesome. To the moon! To the moon! How does that correlate to photography? When you're learning photography, you're learning bits and pieces, right? You're investing, you're learning, and you are building up that foundation. And so the more photography knowledge you start with, it's a great foundational piece. You grow and you grow and you grow. And then all of a sudden, we see this all the time in our Facebook groups. People will shoot the first shoot where it clicks. It's like all that information on the foundation has been growing and they haven't even been realizing how much they've been growing because the foundation's so good and they're just stacking new knowledge on top of it. They go to a shoot and all of a sudden everything makes sense and it is like second nature, getting images that are just glowy and beautiful and sharp and clients look happy and natural. that is what happens with compound interest in the stock market, and it's exactly what happens to people who have a great foundation and continue to invest in their knowledge as a photographer. So that's what I realized when I was filming this course and I was breaking down the basics and realizing, oh my gosh, this is so much more complex than I thought. But if I could explain the basics really well, explain it really well technically and really well practically, gosh, how amazing would it be for photographers to have a foundational base layer to compound upon as they grow. So I recognize this when I recognize how important this is and how deeply ingrained the foundations are for me, because when I was filming this course, we were walking out to a field and I literally stopped and I said, oh my gosh, Tyler, I just realized I'm talking to you guys as we're walking to our location. And as I was walking and talking, I was subconsciously looking at the model's face and walking to the left-hand side of her and looking at the ground, figuring out where the light was. And I didn't even recognize I was doing it. It is so ingrained in me. Like the foundation is so set that I just look for great light and I look for it from a technical perspective, and I just don't even realize I'm doing it. So I stopped there and I'm like, wow, this is why this is so hard, is because I'm having to take everything that comes to me subconsciously and break it down. One, recognize it, and two, break it down so I can explain it to someone who has never had this foundation. So before I get to point 3, I think it's the best point in the entire episode today. I want you to know exactly what the KJ Starter course is all about. And so let's watch this together. So if you have a nice camera, but you really don't know how to use it, or maybe you've tried to learn how to use it and some shots turn out okay and other shots just look terrible and you don't understand why. Or maybe you bought a camera because you wanted to start a photography business on the side, but you've never been able to make that happen. If this sounds like you and you are ready to take images that look like this and turn them into images that look like this, then the KJ Photography Starter course would be the perfect fit for you. In this course, you will learn the skills you need to master manual mode. You'll learn how to recognize and find great light in any situation, and finally create the images that you have always dreamed of. Unlike other photography courses that can overcomplicate the technical side of photography, we've broken down the basics so that they are easy to understand and easy to apply. We're using a new technology that literally allows you to see what I am seeing through my camera viewfinder so you can watch me change settings in real time. So along with the technical basics of learning photography, I am also teaching you the basic concepts of how to edit your images within Lightroom. This is an affordable option for you to learn the foundational education you need to be able to thrive and continue on your photography journey. Whether you want to take beautiful pictures of your children or you want to grow this into a career. This is the type of education and information that you just can't skip over. If you want to learn photography, this is the foundational level that will set you up for success moving forward, no matter what your path may be. If this sounds like what you need to take you from where you are to where you want to be in your photography journey, click the link below. We can't wait to see you on the inside. So number 3, I've realized how far I've come and how much I actually take for granted. So before you kind of write this off as like, oh yeah, like that sounds great, I want to explain there's a reason why, as creative people and artistic people, why our road to getting where we want to go is so complex and complicated, and it's not straightforward. So there's a quote from Ira Glass that I think explains why this happens to us so perfectly. Nobody tells this to people who are beginners. I wish someone had told me. All of us who do creative work, we get into it because we have good taste. But there's this gap. For the first couple of years you make stuff, it's just not that good. It's trying to be good, it has potential, but it's not. But your taste, the thing that got you into the game, is still killer. Your taste is why your work disappoints you. A lot of people never get past this phase and they quit. So the reason why I love this quote is because it puts an explanation as to why creative people get so overwhelmed and so burned out. And as a beginner photographer, it is so easy to look at what you're creating now and to be learning and still not be at this place where you feel like you've arrived. Your images still don't look exactly how you want them to look. And what he's saying in that quote is, this is the story and this is like the burden to bear of every creative person, because your taste and what you admire and why you're striving to become better at this is ultimately what is making you feel so defeated. And so as I created this beginner course, I just realized like that happened to me. right? And I've been in this so long that I've forgotten all the things that have gone into bringing me to the place that I am today. So when I said I'm going to create a starter course for beginner photographers, in my mind, it sounded so simple. It sounded so easy, like, oh, just teach them the basics. And then once I started breaking it down, how I got to where I am, I realized that everything he mentioned in that quote, I'm at the end of it. I've done that work. I've gotten to a place where my work measures up to the people that inspired me to get into this work in the first place. But I did not start there. And I was not there in 2010, and I wasn't even there in 2015. I think I probably got to that place around 2017, when I just knew no matter where I'm shooting, I can create work that is equal to my taste and equal to what I admire and what I long for in my creative journey. So think about where you are in your journey. I don't know exactly where you are. It could be that you have never even shot with a prime lens or a full frame camera, or even a camera that allows you to shoot in manual settings. You just love photography and you want to get better at it. You're at the beginning of your journey. So let this quote be inspiring to you and encouraging to you. As I created this course, I was thinking about beginners. I was thinking about what people feel like when they first get started. And it taught me a lot about myself. It taught me a lot about my own journey into photography, and it allowed me, I think, to create a resource that's going to be transformational for new beginner photographers in this industry. If you are a veteran photographer, you do not need this course. But if you're a beginner photographer that wants the foundational pieces that will allow you to get to a place where you are thrilled with the work you're creating, you cannot get there without the foundations. And this is a course that teaches you everything you need to know about those very foundations of photography. So if you are interested in learning more about the KJ Photography Starter Course, we have linked more information below. It's available for you now, and I want you to know it is the most affordable course we've ever created, because we realize people that are just getting started in photography are not normally making a lot of money in photography. So this needs to be accessible and affordable. So learn more at the link below. I realize not everyone is ready for that. Not everyone is ready to invest. And so if you want to continue to learn, we are going to continue to create content on this YouTube channel. I want you to like and subscribe so you don't miss the very next episode. I'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.